When Sir Aldrich stepped up to Terminal 5 in his crimson tunic, no one expected the VIP lounge to turn into a lockdown zone. Despite his 8 years protecting the crown, one dismissive receptionist decided he wasn't important enough for entry. She controlled access to the lounge where high-profile guests waited, her authority absolute in that small domain. He carried no boarding pass, but he had something far more powerful. She had no idea she was about to witness the difference between borrowed authority and real power. What Sir Aldrich did next with a single phone call didn't just silence the room. It transformed the entire airport. But to understand how one encrypted call could command such immediate respect, you need to see the world through the eyes of someone whose duty never ends. Subscribe for more stories of quiet power, and like the video if Sir Aldrich earned your respect. Most people see the red uniform and think it's just for show, but Sir Aldrich's morning routine reveals the hidden world of royal security that operates in plain sight. At precisely 5:30 a.m., he adjusts the brass buttons on his crimson tunic with practiced precision, each thread aligned perfectly. The radio earpiece hidden beneath his bearskin hat crackles softly with security updates. His encrypted phone contains contact numbers that can mobilize aircraft, close highways, and redirect entire security details with a single message. When you protect the crown, perfection isn't optional. Sir Aldrich has spent 8 years of his life mastering this discipline. His service record tells a story most civilians never see behind the ceremonial facade. Advanced tactical training, counter-surveillance techniques, and close protection protocols that transform tourist attractions into secure zones within minutes. The tourists who snap photos outside Buckingham Palace see pageantry, but they miss the calculated movements, the constant scanning, the quiet competence that keeps threats at bay. Royal guards aren't museum pieces dressed in historical costumes. They're trained operators whose job happens to require period uniforms. The weight of responsibility settles on his shoulders every morning like the scarlet fabric itself. When Parliament meets, when foreign dignitaries visit, when the Queen travels, Aldrich becomes part of an invisible network that spans continents. His training emphasized threat assessment, emergency response procedures, and the constant vigilance required to anticipate potential dangers in any environment. The combination of physical skills and strategic thinking transforms ordinary spaces into secure zones through careful observation and preparation. Today presents a unique challenge that separates royal protection from ordinary security work. The Queen requires discreet escort through Terminal 5 at Heathrow, where civilian protocols don't automatically bend to royal authority. Unlike palace walls, Heathrow runs on checklists and software, not regal protocols. Airport staff operate under different chains of command, their supervisors answering to aviation authorities rather than palace officials. In these spaces, Aldrich's uniform might actually work against him, drawing attention when his job requires blending protection with public appearances. Royal protection adapts constantly to modern travel complexities that didn't exist when these protocols were first written. Commercial airports present security nightmares filled with international passengers, multiple exit points, and staff who change shifts every 8 hours. Unlike state visits where entire city blocks get cleared and secured, airport operations continue normally around royal movements. Aldrich must navigate immigration queues, security checkpoints, and VIP lounges while maintaining protection standards designed for controlled palace environments. His mental preparation begins during the 40-minute drive to Heathrow. The Queen waits in a private departure lounge while Aldrich handles the advanced security sweep that ensures her safe passage to the aircraft. Every person she encounters has been vetted. Every route has been walked and timed. Every backup plan has been rehearsed until it becomes muscle memory. But civilian spaces introduce variables that palace protocols can't always anticipate. The delicate balance between maintaining cover and ensuring security requires constant judgment calls. Too obvious, and you compromise operational security by advertising royal presence to potential threats. Too subtle, and airport staff might not recognize the authority necessary to implement protection protocols. Aldrich's uniform usually bridges this gap, commanding immediate respect and cooperation from officials who understand its significance. What was going through Sir Aldrich's mind as he approached Terminal 5? The clock in his head counted precious minutes while the Queen remained unattended. His training emphasized that protection gaps, even brief ones, create vulnerabilities that hostile actors can exploit. Every second spent in unnecessary delays extended the window where his primary duty remained unfulfilled. Professional composure fought against the urgency of his sworn obligation to safeguard the crown. Royal guards learn early in their training that real authority doesn't need to announce itself loudly. Quiet competence carries more weight than shouted demands. But competence requires recognition from others to function effectively. Today, at Terminal 5, his uniform wouldn't grant him the recognition it deserved. The moment Sir Aldrich stepped through the VIP lounge entrance, the receptionist's first glance should have been a moment of recognition. Her eyes lifted from the computer screen for barely 2 seconds before returning to the passenger manifest displayed in neat rows across her monitor. The crimson uniform with its polished brass buttons registered as costume rather than credential. Another eccentric traveler trying to impress his way into the VIP lounge. The woman behind the desk, no older than 30, had seen plenty of those during her shifts at Terminal 5. She sees a stranger in costume with no credentials and moves on. Her routine involved checking names against approved lists, scanning boarding passes, and directing guests to appropriate seating areas. The system worked efficiently when people followed standard procedures. The man in the red uniform disrupted that rhythm immediately. He approached her desk with military bearing that seemed out of place in the corporate environment of the VIP lounge. His polished boots clicked against the marble floor with measured steps. The ornate sword at his side caught fluorescent lighting as he moved. She glanced up again, noting the serious expression beneath the bearskin hat. Probably another wealthy tourist with an elaborate costume to match his inflated sense of importance. Aldrich cleared his throat politely and began explaining his mission in measured tones. He needed immediate access to escort Her Majesty through the departure lounge. Security protocols required advance clearance of all personnel who would interact with the Queen during her journey. His words carried the formal precision of someone accustomed to official procedures, but the receptionist heard theatrical performance rather than legitimate authority. The escalating frustration became visible in small details that went unnoticed entirely. Aldrich's jaw tightened slightly when she asked him to step aside while she handled other guests. His fingers drummed once against his leg when she suggested he contact customer service for assistance with his booking confusion. These subtle signs of mounting tension escaped someone whose attention remained divided between computer screens and routine passenger processing. Her position behind the reception desk provided clearly defined authority over lounge access. Company policy gave her complete discretion to approve or deny entry based on established criteria. Valid boarding pass, name on the approved list, proper identification. The man in the costume had none of these requirements. His elaborate story about royal protection sounded like exactly the kind of creative fiction she encountered from passengers trying to upgrade their travel experience. The psychological dynamics playing out at that reception desk revealed how perceived power can override actual authority when recognition fails. She controlled the immediate environment through established procedures and corporate backing. Her computer terminal connected to airline systems that determined who gained access to premium services. This institutional framework gave her confidence to dismiss claims that seemed obviously fraudulent. Security breaches often occur through exactly these kinds of administrative oversights, where human judgment fails to recognize legitimate authority operating outside expected channels. Airport personnel receive training focused on standard threats like terrorism and smuggling. But this training doesn't prepare them for situations where actual government officials present credentials that don't match computerized systems designed for commercial passenger processing. Aldrich's internal struggle intensified with each passing minute, while bureaucratic stubbornness created an impossible situation. His sworn duty demanded immediate access to complete the security sweep. Every second of delay extended the protection gap surrounding the Queen. His training emphasized that hostile actors specifically target these transition periods when normal security protocols become disrupted. After her final rejection, Aldrich's composure remained steady as he reached for his encrypted phone. His voice carried quiet authority as he spoke the words that would change everything. "This is Guard Aldrich. Her Majesty is unattended. Protocol 7, confirm lockdown." The dangerous vulnerability created by this standoff had reached critical levels. What the receptionist didn't realize was that her casual dismissal was about to collide with something far more serious than company policy. Her phone buzzed with personal alerts as she ignored the crimson figure standing before her desk, creating exactly the kind of security gap that transforms routine procedures into dangerous vulnerabilities. The blue glow from her smartphone screen reflected off her reading glasses as she checked social media notifications between glances at Aldrich. Text messages from friends planning weekend activities, Instagram posts showing vacation photos from colleagues, email alerts about upcoming work schedules. Each digital interruption pulled her focus away from the uniformed man who waited for recognition that never came. Modern workplace reality has transformed professional environments into constant battlegrounds against digital distractions that fragment attention across multiple competing demands. Her computer monitor displayed passenger manifests while her smartphone buzzed with personal notifications every few minutes. The terminal around her hummed with electronic sounds from boarding announcements and security alerts that created a backdrop of technological noise. Her job required processing dozens of passengers each hour while managing computerized booking systems that demanded precise data entry and verification procedures. Her divided focus meant she never saw the real threat in front of her. What should have been routine security clearance transformed into a potential crisis that neither she nor her supervisors recognized. Aldrich watched her thumb swipe across the phone screen while he explained the urgency of his mission for the third time. Her responses became increasingly automatic and dismissive as her attention remained split between digital distractions and the growing frustration of the man in the red uniform who refused to accept her initial rejection. The mounting pressure became visible in Aldrich's controlled breathing and the slight tension in his shoulders as precious seconds continued ticking away. His internal clock maintained constant awareness of the protection timeline that governed royal movements through civilian spaces. Every minute spent at this reception desk extended the security gap surrounding the Queen in her private departure lounge. His training had emphasized that hostile actors specifically study these transition periods when normal protection protocols become disrupted by administrative delays and bureaucratic confusion. Small oversights in security protocols cascade into major vulnerabilities when multiple systems fail to coordinate effectively during high-stakes situations. Airport security operates on different communication networks than royal protection details. Staff training focuses on commercial passenger processing rather than government security requirements that fall outside normal operational parameters. The receptionist's distracted behavior represented exactly the kind of human error that creates exploitable weaknesses in otherwise robust security architectures. Other VIP lounge staff began noticing the unusual standoff developing at the entrance, as her conversation with the costumed passenger extended far beyond typical processing times. A supervisor glanced over from her position near the beverage station, noting the animated discussion, but assuming it involved another difficult customer demanding special treatment. Two security guards stationed near the main entrance observed the interaction but remained focused on their assigned positions, monitoring passenger flow. Aldrich's patience reached its absolute limit as the security situation deteriorated with each passing moment of administrative dysfunction. His radio earpiece remained silent, waiting for confirmation that the Queen's departure route had been properly secured and verified. Standard protection protocols required advance clearance of all personnel and spaces before royal movement could proceed safely. The receptionist's continued refusal to grant access created an unacceptable delay that threatened the entire security operation. Her divided attention prevents recognition of legitimate security credentials while extending protection gaps that hostile actors could exploit. Modern workplace distractions compromise even the most important security protocols when human judgment fails under pressure from competing information sources. The critical moment arrived when Aldrich realized continued diplomacy would fail and decisive action became necessary. His hand moved toward the small black device in his uniform pocket, ordinary in appearance but extraordinary in its power to change everything. The encrypted phone measured no larger than a standard smartphone, its matte black surface unmarked by logos or identifying features that might draw attention in civilian settings. But beneath that unremarkable exterior lay communication technology that connected directly to the highest levels of British security infrastructure. This wasn't a device for casual conversations or routine check-ins. Royal Protection officers carried these phones for one purpose only: direct contact with command structures that could mobilize aircraft, close highways, and transform entire city blocks into secure zones within minutes. The weight of the decision to use encrypted channels in civilian settings pressed heavily on Aldrich's mind as his fingers closed around the device. 8 years of service had taught him that crossing from diplomatic persuasion to official protocol enforcement represented a point of no return. Once activated, royal security networks would assume immediate control over civilian operations, regardless of local authority or corporate policies. Airport management would lose discretion over their own facility. Passenger movements would halt. Commercial schedules would bend to security requirements. Aldrich's moment of hesitation lasted exactly 3 seconds as training battled against the magnitude of what he was about to unleash. His thumb hovered over the secure contact that would bypass every level of civilian bureaucracy and connect him directly to command centers where duty officers monitored threats to the crown around the clock. The receptionist continued scrolling through her phone, completely unaware that her stubborn refusal had pushed Royal Protection protocols to their breaking point. Her divided attention represented exactly the kind of security gap that hostile actors studied and exploited during vulnerable transition periods. Protocol 7 existed as the ultimate fail-safe when standard diplomatic channels failed to ensure royal safety in civilian environments. This emergency procedure represents the highest level of royal protection response authorized by Parliament to override civilian operations when the Queen's safety requires immediate securing of any location or facility. Aldrich lifted the encrypted device to his ear as the secure connection established itself through satellite links that bypassed standard telecommunications infrastructure entirely. His voice carried the calm authority of someone trained to deliver critical information under pressure without emotional inflection that might compromise operational clarity. The precise language he used followed established formats designed to eliminate ambiguity during crisis situations when seconds could determine the success or failure of protection protocols. Control, this is Guardian 7. Her Majesty is unattended. Protocol 7. Confirm lockdown. The words, Her Majesty is unattended, echoed through secure channels monitored by duty officers who understood their significance immediately. Within the Royal Protection hierarchy, those 4 words represented the highest possible threat level. They meant the Queen faced potential danger without her immediate security detail present to respond to emerging threats. Every protocol, every contingency plan, every resource allocation decision prioritized preventing exactly this scenario from occurring. The phrase triggered immediate response protocols that transformed theoretical emergency procedures into coordinated action across multiple agencies simultaneously. Command centers activated pre-positioned response teams, while communication networks alerted partner organizations about the developing security situation. Intelligence services began monitoring electronic communications for potential threats, while transportation authorities prepared to implement movement restrictions that would isolate the affected area from outside interference. Protocol 7 possessed the power to override civilian authority because Parliament had specifically authorized Royal Protection Services to assume operational control over any location where the Crown faced unacceptable risk. Airport terminals, train stations, hotels, and commercial facilities all fell under potential royal security jurisdiction when circumstances demanded immediate protective action. The immediate and dramatic changes began unfolding across Terminal 5 as the encrypted call triggered responses that would reshape everything. What happened next would demonstrate exactly how far royal authority could reach when properly activated. Doors clicked shut, radios crackled, and unmarked vehicles rolled up in perfect timing as the silence that fell over Terminal 5 became the sound of an entire airport bending to royal authority. Within seconds of Aldrich ending his encrypted communication, security personnel appeared from positions most passengers never noticed they occupied. The casual atmosphere of business travelers checking emails and families preparing for vacation flights disappeared as uniformed officers moved with systematic efficiency that revealed months of preparation. Most civilian facilities never witnessed outside of major emergencies. In a heartbeat, the lounge emptied and corporate policies dissolved under royal orders. Guests who had been enjoying complimentary breakfast found themselves approached by polite but firm security officers who explained that immediate evacuation was required for their safety. No exceptions, no delays, no arguments. The metallic clicks of electronic locks engaging automatically across every entrance and exit point echoed through the space as the transformation from commercial facility to secure zone unfolded with military precision. She stared at alerts she'd never seen, her authority evaporating as red warning messages flashed across passenger manifests, while her phone system automatically transferred all incoming calls to supervisory personnel. The authority she had wielded so confidently minutes earlier crumbled before the reality of royal protection procedures that operated according to different rules entirely. Her smartphone fell silent in her hands as personal notifications became irrelevant compared to the professional crisis unfolding before her. Black vehicles positioned themselves at strategic points around the building perimeter, while additional security teams emerged from aircraft hangars and maintenance areas where they had remained invisible until needed. The visual transformation from ordinary airport operations to high-security lockdown demonstrated institutional power that most British citizens never observed directly, despite funding it through their taxes. Security cordons formed with military precision as personnel established multiple layers of protection around the affected terminal sections. Passengers throughout Terminal 5 stopped their conversations and stared as the invisible machinery of royal protection came to life around them. Business executives accustomed to VIP treatment found themselves redirected through alternate routes without explanation or apology. Airline crews received updated instructions that altered flight schedules and gate assignments to accommodate security requirements that took precedence over commercial considerations. The psychological impact on witnesses created lasting understanding of power dynamics that operated far beyond their normal experience. He walked through the cleared lounge as if nothing had changed. Aldrich's demeanor remained completely unchanged, even as coordinated activity erupted throughout the terminal around his position. His breathing stayed controlled, his posture maintained military bearing, and his expression showed neither satisfaction nor concern, as protocols he had initiated unfolded according to established procedures. 8 years of training had prepared him for exactly these moments when duty required decisive action rather than diplomatic negotiation. The receptionist's face showed recognition mixed with growing horror as she realized she had denied access to someone whose sole responsibility involved protecting the most important person in Britain. The elaborate costume she thought she recognized became clearly identifiable as authentic military dress. The theatrical performance she had ignored revealed itself as legitimate official business. The customer service problem she believed she was handling transformed into a security situation far beyond her training or authority to resolve. The systematic transformation of Terminal 5 revealed networks of preparation, personnel, and protocols that operated invisibly until circumstances demanded their activation. Parliamentary authorization allowed royal protection to override civilian authority when the Queen's safety required immediate securing of any location or facility. This demonstration showed how constitutional monarchy maintained practical power through careful preparation rather than constant display. The lasting impact extended far beyond administrative corrections as witnesses confronted the reality of invisible systems that surrounded them daily, waiting silently until duty called them into action. Sir Aldrich's measured response revealed something profound about the nature of real authority. He never raised his voice or threatened consequences during his encounter with the dismissive receptionist. His strength came from unwavering dedication to protecting the Queen, not from demanding recognition of his position. In a world of titles and checklists, real power moves quietly and only when it must. Hidden networks of power operate silently around us every day, waiting to act only when absolutely necessary. Royal protection, intelligence services, and security infrastructure remain invisible until circumstances require their activation. Real strength lies not in the ability to demand respect, but in commanding it through professional competence and unwavering duty. Remember Sir Aldrich next time you mistake costume for charisma. If you appreciate the discipline behind British tradition, subscribe for more stories of duty and quiet strength.